Good morning, everybody. This is Robert Ellsworth Lane, a descendant of Esther Jones Lane, a descendant of Irene Bell Brown Jones. And right here with the executive producer of today's video, Mr. James Eugene Lyons. And he's my second cousin, I think, maybe my third cousin. Third cousin. You see that? That's why he's the executive. He's just corrected this. And it's a pleasure to be here, and can't wait to see this video when it's finished. And we're going to have a real good time. We've had a great time so far, and I keep on talking. The director here, he's about to cut me off. So, signing off for right now.
You were just smiling. Oh, you still are.
Come on, Dave.
I know you don't like that. You're singing a song, you silly girl. Go get Joseph. Tell him I said come here. What are you doing? You got your phone. Everybody over here, on this side, right between these two trees.
Everybody between Demetrius and Adam.
Everybody, please. We're all family. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric, you there. You gotta have some of them.
She needs to be in the front. She wanted short. I'm in here.
We need to pick her up. Bring the house people.
Everybody.
To this side, everybody to this side. What in between these two trees? Everybody wave now! Maybe on this side. When Connie doesn't drive by.
Hey, Joe Leo!
Okay, everybody must be between the trees. Come forward. Come forward. Adam, you're too far right. You're out.
No, she ain't. There you go.
I need to get Dad.
Oh,
DJ, tell my husband say this is static. They power real loud. Get him up, DJ.
grab him by the arm.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm going to sort of direct things since Jim is in the shot. Everybody having a good time?
Yeah!
Now, who's here?
I'm
There are still people inside.
That's not what I heard.
Lions.
They're getting down.
Brown lions.
Cecil B. DeMille.
They're getting Uncle Antoine.
I know, but we're filming right now, darling.
No way.
Oh yeah, no way. We're not done yet.
Come on, Dad.
All right, you don't have to get quiet because we got video too. We got audio and video.
Okay, children, who loves you?
Here, go get Connie. Okay, we ready? Sure.
I know.
We got everybody in here. All right.
Okay.
Now,
David's not in it. Come on, DJ, take this.
sorry. Now we can see. Everybody needs to be able to. Attention, please. Everybody needs to be in a position where they can see the camera lens. If you can't see the camera lens, it can't see you. So, it has All right. Since this is the Lyons Brown family reunion, and there were Lions before there were Browns, let's everybody who is a Lions directly raise their hand and wave and say hello.
Wait, Dad, which one are we?
Okay. The next generation down is the Lions and the Browns. And of the group here, the oldest sibling of the Browns Lions were and Sarah. So everybody who descends from Sarah Brown, raise your hand and wave. All right. The next and the youngest of the Brown Lions family was Irene. So everybody who descends from Irene, raise your hand and wave. Okay. Now we can go from there. We have the Sarah Brown family, and somebody else is going to have to start and take it from who is it, Calvin or whoever, you know.
Okay, I'm from Lewis Sims.
Calvin
Sims. And there are no Joe Sims, unfortunately.
That's a little Joe, but he's okay.
Any other Sims?
No other Sims.
Okay. Then the next it would be the Joneses. Anybody who descends from the Joneses, wave your hand.
That's you.
All right. And can we go any farther from that? Or have I spoken enough? All right, everybody look in the camera and smile, say cheese. Cheese. And y'all come back next time, here? One other announcement. Anybody who's not yet had an individual video, raise their hand. Okay. Your next stop. introduction.
Hi, I'm Terry L. Sims Jordan. Married. This is my husband, John Jordan, and I was born in Canton, Ohio. I am the granddaughter of Sarah Brown Sims and the daughter of Louis B. Sims Sr. and Lois B. Sims. I had an older brother, Blair. We called him Blair, but his real name was Louis Blair Sims Jr. And unfortunately, they're all deceased. And I loved my grandmother. I had 3 uncles. I had Uncle James, an Uncle Joe, and an Uncle Calvin. Uncle Joe was the salt of the earth. He taught us how to tie our shoes, how to count. He told us old stories that most kids would never know about, and he was a wonderful uncle. And my Uncle James, I met him when I moved to California, and he knew that I loved tomatoes, and every year he would go to the LA Fair and he would bring me tomatoes.
What was your mother's maiden name?
My mother's maiden name was Bradley.
And how did you two meet and become a family?
We met at a very young age. We've known each other our entire lives, but as young adults, we both went our own separate ways, and we just reconnected and fell in love and got married. I don't know. You talk.
Yeah, my name is John Allen Jordan. I grew up and lived in the Canton, Ohio area, northeast Ohio. And my parents, Molly Lou Jordan, and my father, Joseph Daniel Jordan, are coincidentally from the Ozark and Dothan, Alabama areas. We've done some ancestry work on them. We haven't been nearly as fortunate as you people have. They have good ancestry detectives like these 2 fellas here, but we've got some history established. Again, my wife, Terry, we met. I was in Arizona. She was in California. We met and kind of just among friends, talked, had a good time, and we continued to see each other. And before you know it, I'm flying over to California. She's flying over to Arizona. We said, well, forget this. Let's just have one household. So we got married April 19th, 2014, and we've been happy ever since. I'm connected to the Lyons, Browns, Bradley families through marriage, but I've been made to feel at home and accepted, and I've met some of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. So thank you for having me.
Oh, that's sweet.
What do you remember about, it is wonderful, what do you remember about your grandmother?
Grandmother, that's what I was going to go. I had the most beautiful, wonderful grandmother that played with us. She played kick the can with us. My parents did a lot of fishing, and she would drop everything and come and take care of my brother and myself. And like I said, she played with us. She was a grandmother that would come outside and play with us, and I just have nothing but wonderful memories of them all. Like Uncle Calvin and my dad were really close, and we would go over to Thea and Michelle and Annette and Merle's house all the time, and we all together on the holidays. And let's see, unfortunately we lost my Uncle Calvin at a young age, but he was the one that brought us to Pittsburgh most of the time. And he would have my poor mom and my poor grandmother had white knuckles because those winding roads, he would pass 3 cars at a time. And Uncle Joe was the baby, and he was quiet, but like I said, he taught me and my brother so much stuff before we even started school that it amazes me to this day. And I loved them all dearly.
And I understand he also brought you to Clearfield. What do you remember about Clearfield, if anything?
Do you know what all I can remember is it was country, and I remember the porch, and that's about it.
Breakfast nook?
Just the food. I don't actually remember the room, but I remember the delicious food that we ate there. The home fried potatoes and the pancakes. And so it's funny the things that you remember. And the only thing that I remember about Pittsburgh is all those steps. And me and Annette were talking about that yesterday. We don't ever remember going in the house. We can remember what the house looked like and the steps.
I think there were 47 steps.
Wow. It seemed like 150 when you're a little kid. But I have very good memories of always being loved and protected and just a family unit. And I'm a firm believer that we all should have a daughter. But my grandmother didn't have a daughter. But my father and his brothers were like she had a daughter because they took excellent care of her.
And you mentioned you had some cousins who are here?
I have cousins that are here today. That's Thea Waters and her husband Chug and her husband David and their son Alex. And then I have Michelle and Annette and her daughter Tamika and the baby Lila. And we're having a ball. And I didn't really get to speak about, can we pause for a second?
Sure. And we can edit it out.
Okay, I was trying to think. I had a story I wanted to tell. But it doesn't matter. And I want to mention that my brother was the salt of the earth, and you guys remind me so much of him. And every January when I was single, he would come to California and repair any and everything I needed repaired. And he was a very good brother also, very good big brother. And I do remember you guys vaguely as children, and I do have a picture of Thea, Michelle, Annette, Shelley, and Connie. But unfortunately, I didn't find it before we came.
Okay.
Anything else you want to share?
I'll probably think about it after I leave. I thought I was prepared till I got in here.
You've done well.
You think?
Done very
Oh, you're
well.
so sweet.
Yeah.
So, okay, I spoke on my brother. And my mom, I had a beautiful mother who taught me so many wonderful values, and she taught me about never start wearing makeup because you'll always have to wear it and you won't look like yourself. And she always taught me to be comfortable. And I don't know, we just used to have so much fun. We used to go camping, fishing. We just did everything as a family. Oh, I want to tell you this one story about my dad. So, my dad was an excellent bowler, and he bowled all over the United States. And in fact, he started the first Negro bowling league in Canton, Ohio. And I have a plaque, and he was inducted into the Amateur Bowling Hall of Fame. And so, in my dad's travels, so when me and my brother were very young, my dad wanted us to experience other cultures. So they took us to the Cleveland Zoo and then to a Chinese restaurant. And me and my brother ordered hamburgers and hot dogs. And my father flipped a gasket, and he said he would never take us anywhere ever again the rest of our lives. Now, mind you, I think Blair was 8 and I was 6. So the time passed, and I'm now 55, 56, 57. He goes to New Orleans on a bowling trip. And the people that he was with, I guess they were arguing about where to go eat. and my dad was extremely hungry. And so I said, Daddy, did you get some gumbo when you were in New Orleans? And he goes, no, I did the you and Blair. And I said, you did the you and me and Blair? And he goes, yeah, I ate a hamburger. They were arguing and I just wanted to eat. And I said, Daddy, I was like 6 years old then. Are you still holding that against me? And we started laughing. And it's just,
all these years.
I know. It's like, come on. But yeah, I love that story. It's just amazing that he would say that so many years later. So, and I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy. I know our grandmothers are smiling and dancing and having a good time, and very happy. And Connie reaching out really helped me with the sting of losing all of my immediate family. And I love you guys so dearly for that.
All right, that's a wrap.
Earlier, I forgot to mention that I'm very blessed that I'm one of the only persons in my family that knows and has met all of my first cousins, all of my uncles and my aunts, and I do my Uncle James that I said that brought me tomatoes every year. He has 3 sons, Roger, Robbie, and James Jr. And I just wanted to say again, I'm so blessed because I know all of my first cousins on this side of the family. And now I know all my second cousins. Thank you.
Your second cousin.
Most of them.
There are a few you haven't met yet.
Right, but it's just like I'm the only one left that knew everybody. So I wanted y'all to know that.
Hello, I'm Annette Montgomery, and maiden name is the Sims. This is my daughter, Tamika, and my granddaughter, Lila. I am a descendant of my father being Calvin Jackson Sims, and his mother was Sarah Brown. And I remember some of my dad's aunts, and we visited. It was a gentleman, but I can't remember his name. He lived up, I would say, about 500 steps to his house. And I think it was
Ellsworth.
Uncle Ellsworth, okay. And I also remember my dad's, I think it'll be his Aunt Irene. And those are all really the only ones that I really knew of. I didn't realize until we came that she had other sisters and brothers. And I also remember my dad telling us that he had Cherokee in the family. I do remember that part. And he had a brother named James, which was his oldest brother. And he also had a brother, Louis. And my dad was very close. That's who we always had associations with, like Christmases and holidays. We always spent with our Uncle Louis. And when we would spend time with Uncle Louis on some of the holidays, of course, his little brother Joseph would also spend time with us, and my grandmother Sarah. And I always remember her. It's so funny how you remember different things from your grandparents, and I just loved her long silver hair. And I used to always admire that of her, and I was like, oh man, I hope one day I have beautiful hair like my grandmother. And that's about the extent of the people that I really had association with from my dad. And I know he had an aunt. I thought it was his aunt, but I think it's higher up the line. He always talked about Antoinette, saying that was his favorite aunt. So that's the only family members that I recall. Now I have my siblings would be, I'm the oldest, so I'm the oldest girl. Then it comes, order would be Merle, which is under me, and then Theodora, but she goes by Thea now, and then Michelle. So that's all my siblings. And then Tamika is my daughter, and this is her daughter. And then I also have 2 other daughters, and their names are Monica, which is the oldest, and Arnetta, which is the middle, and of course Tamika's the baby. And
The favorite.
Right, baby's always the favorite. And then I have 6 grandchildren, 4 boys and 2 girls. Of course, the order of my grandkids would be Felice, who is named after me. My middle name is Felice. And then I have Christopher, and then Braylon, and then Devin, and then Lila comes next, and then the baby is Marcel. And that's enough for me, right? Because that's it. You want to say something?
All I want to say is I am the favorite, so let's keep that on there. I don't have many memories of my grandfather. Unfortunately, he was left us at a very young age, so I didn't get any experiences with him. But everything that I know about him has all been good stories. One thing that I do know for a fact is that he always kept the family together. They traveled quite a bit. He loved seafood, and he always kept money in his pocket. So those are good things and good memories to know about a person that you never met.
Yeah, and that was the thing that losing my dad at an early age, that actually I think is what cut it, that we really didn't know a lot of our descendants from that side. And that is what inspired me to start trying to do genealogy to see if I could connect that back together. And of course, I could only get to the part of my grandmother's mother. And at that point, I was like, oh, goodness. And of course, my favorite cousin, Terry, is the one that said, oh, well, wait a minute. I think someone in the family line has already started that. And I said, great, because I need help. So Terry actually and her brother Blair are the only cousins that I really knew. So coming to this affair has really brought a lot of warmth and family warmth to me, to know that I still have a big family. It's not, you know how you always just think, okay, how much farther is my family line going to go, because I only know this little group. But to now know that bloodline is so wide,
Very long.
and yes, and to know that now I know how it goes up and how it branches out, and to know that our tree still has branches that are blooming is very wonderful feeling.
Lila, what would you like to say?
You say, my name is Lila. Well, I guess nothing.
You gonna look at the camera, Lila?
Look at the camera.
Say,
Wave. Hi.
Are you having a good time?
yes?
And what do you like to eat?
What do you like to eat?
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Now that's unusual, and
You
that's
like
wonderful.
Avocado.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who's your Mimi? See your Mimi? And you love her, don't you? And I know she loves you.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Okay.
Any more?
No. I just, I always enjoyed, I knew when we went to Pittsburgh that we were going to go see a relative of my dad. And that's why I remember Ellsworth and Irene, because I knew we were going to, once we got there, we were going to travel for my dad to see his relatives.
All right. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Hi, my name is Merle Sims. This is my wife, Carmen Colquitt Sims, and my son, Christopher Dante Sims. I guess I'll start off with my parents are Calvin Sims and Early Mae Harrison. I have 3 sisters, Annette Sims, Michelle Sims, and Theodora Sims. And we're from Canton, Ohio. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I guess I'm a direct line to the Brown family by my grandmother, which is Sarah Brown. Sarah Brown was my father, Calvin Sims, Louis Sims, and Joseph Sims' mother. And that would be my grandmother. I have not a lot of memories of her because I was very young when she passed. I remember her with my Uncle Joe. She stayed in Canton, Ohio with Uncle Joe in an apartment, and my uncle was taking care of my grandmother, and we used to go over and visit my uncle from time to time and see my grandmother. My memories of her would be she had, I think, cerebral palsy or something, and she used to have to squeeze a tennis ball, to keep her limbs going. But she was in a rocking chair, and they wound up putting her into a nursing home, and she passed in a nursing home. But my father also passed when I was 9 years old. He was in a car accident, so he's been dead since '66. But my mother did a good job raising us, as you can tell. I have a daughter named Brianna Sims, also that isn't here now. She's a recent graduate of Spelman College in Atlanta, and she's a pre-med student. I guess I'll go on and let my wife explain how we got together back in the day, which is 1984, 30-some plus years of her being my woman. I met her through her sister. Her sister saw me and said, "You'll be perfect for my sister," and introduced us, and we've been together ever since. So Carmen is originally from Gary, Indiana, and she's going to elaborate on that.
All right. Hi, my name is Carmen Colquitt. That's my maiden name. My married name is Carmen Sims, which I married this old
beautiful man.
Old man here. I am originally from Hampton, Virginia. I was born in Hampton because my dad was in the Air Force, and we traveled all over the world. And we basically settled down in Gary, Indiana, where his parents was from. So we basically settled there, and wait, let me think. We basically settled down in Gary, Indiana until I moved to Atlanta, Georgia when I was going off to school, which was Spelman College and another college as well. I didn't finish, but that's okay. I mean, I got about a couple more classes to go. And that's where I met Merle in Atlanta, Georgia. My sister basically introduced me to Merle, and we were a perfect fit. It was like, wow,
Wow. 30 years later, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still here.
We're still here. We're still together, and we're still married.
Yes.
And I love you so much, Merle.
And I love you.
Okay.
And this is Chris Sims right here. Explain yourself.
I'm Christopher Sims, and Merle Sims and Winnette Sims is my parents. I'm originally from Atlanta, moved to Columbia, South Carolina. And my grandmother is Mae Sims. My great-grandmother is Sarah Brown.
Yep, that's right.
And my grandfather is Calvin. I don't have any memories of them because they passed before I was born.
Well, I met a few of my interesting cousins at this gathering. And there's this one that sticks out in my mind like no other one. His name is Alvy. He reminds me of somebody I know.
You.
No, but close.
Right.
But I had a wonderful time, and we look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, we really enjoyed this gathering. I basically needed this break in my life because I do take care of my mother, and these days just helped me to regroup mentally, you know.
And we're in the real estate industry. We build, sell, and remodel and flip houses. And we also have a nonprofit housing agency downtown Stone Mountain, which we help underprivileged get into houses, and we help low income and vets get housing.
Yeah.
So we're downtown Stone Mountain, Georgia. So if you ever need us, just holler at us. We'll be down there at the office trying to make it happen.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Terry Sims is my first cousin. I didn't know anyone here other than my immediate family, which was Annette Montgomery, Tamika Montgomery, Terry Jordan, Johnny Jordan, Michelle Sims Pride, and Thea Waters, Alex Waters, and David Waters. We all live in Atlanta except for Terry and Johnny. And it was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Yes,
and I'm just finding out about this interesting side of the family, the Lyons. And I want to know, are we kin to Lucius Lyons? Lucius Lyons of Empire Records. Okay, because I've been watching Lucius on television. It reminds me of Alvy. So that's our story.
All right, that's a wrap.
Good morning. My name is Thea Waters, and I am originally from Canton, Ohio. I currently live and reside in Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And my fondest memories of my my grandmother, who is Sarah Brown. I descended from that arm of the Brown family. My grandmother had a son named Calvin Sims, and Calvin married Early May Sims. And from there, they had 5 children. So I have 4 siblings that are Sims. And I am not the baby, but the next to the baby. And there is 5 of us, so there are 3 girls and 2 boys. And let's see. One of the things that I remember is I was very young when my grandmother passed. And I remember that I was about 7 years old when my father passed away, and my grandmother and Irene came to the funeral. And because I was so young, I do remember seeing a fair-skinned woman with long gray hair. And I thought everyone told me that was my grandmother. So when I saw all the pictures of the family, I totally identified my grandmother as Irene. And I told everyone, this is my grandmother. And then they said, this is Irene. I said, well, no, that's not my grandmother. My grandmother's name was Sarah. And so honestly, I've been able to identify and to see so many wonderful pictures that has totally moved my memory to a actual heritage of where I come from. And although I finally understand that Irene was my great aunt and not my grandmother, I still see that I came from a beautiful line of people, and I have so many new memories that I'm going to build with all the wonderful people that I've had the opportunity to meet. So this is just the beginning. I hope to have lots of telephone numbers, and now I have so many places to visit because this family has really been very mobile, and we've gone from at one side of the country to the other. So that's some of the memories that I have, and I'm so glad to have been a part of this and set the record straight for me. Good afternoon. This is the Waters family. We have David Waters, Thea Waters, and Alex Waters. We have descended from Sarah Brown, who is the sister to Irene Brown, and most of the family members to those two connection families are here today. I actually am Sarah Brown's granddaughter. My father, Calvin Sims, was one of her sons, and she actually had several other siblings. There was James, and there was Calvin, and there's also Lewis, and some of my siblings, my actual first cousins, are here as well from that descendant. I am from Canton, Ohio originally, and we now reside in Stone Mountain, Georgia. A stone's throw from Ohio, right? So some of my earliest memories of my immediate family from my grandmother's line is actually sort of a sad story. I actually lost my father when I was 7 years old. My mother, May Sims, her name is Early May Sims, what everyone calls her May. She married Calvin Sims, and they had 5 children. And unfortunately, he died in a car accident when she was only 32 years old with 5 children. And certainly back in 1965 and 66, that must have been a terrible hardship on her, because men at that time really were the breadwinners. They raised the families, and the wives were the domestic engineers, if you will. So with that said, my mother has done a fantastic job in raising all of us. We all have college degrees. We've all been to college education, and so forth. Some of us a little bit more. But we really do appreciate the sacrifices that she has made. My earliest memory of my grandmother was also at a funeral. And I, again, mentioned earlier that I really was confused. I thought Aunt Irene was my grandmother. So by coming together at this family reunion, the very first ever that we have had, I really have gotten my opportunity to set the record straight on who my descendants are, what order they lie in, and to find this wonderful, beautiful, extended family. So Alex and David and Thea are here today having a wonderful time with our family, first ever family reunion, and we hope to do this again real soon.
And David, would you like to say anything, since we've already gotten Alex on tape here?
I would just like to say it's great to be here and being a part of such a beautiful family. And I'm looking for many, many more family reunions together, and this is truly a beautiful family. And thanks for having me.
Alex, any last words?
I agree. I agree that we should do this again. I've had a blast meeting all my newfound family. So I agree that we should do this again. Hello everybody, my name is David Alexander Waters. I am from Stone Mountain, Georgia, and my parents are Thea Waters. Maiden name is Thea Sims. My dad's name is David Waters. My grandparents are Early Sims and Calvin Sims. And yeah, a little bit about myself. Is I am in college right now. I am 18 years old. I attend the University of Georgia State, and I'm studying chemistry. I want to go into the research type of facility. Right now I work for Wells Fargo. I'm a teller. I also play a lot of sports. I do golf, I play tennis, I'm a power lifter.
He looks it too.
Yeah, I guess so. And some family memories. Well, let's talk about the reunion first, because I can't think of any memories off the top of my head. But I think the reunion was a great idea. I met a lot of different people that are so friendly and nice, and I love everybody here since I met them. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we got this together, and we should do this more often, because there's a lot of people I haven't met from my mother's side of the family. So it was a great opportunity to get together, break bread, share stories and a genealogy and all that other good stuff. So I think that the reunion was an awesome thing to have, and some memories. Let's see what we got for some memories. Some memories. So like the type of memories are just like just anything. Memories.
Or a funny story. Anything, or if you're good, you're good.
I'm good. Okay. Let me see a memory. Some early memories I have with my family. I would say my cousin Tamika. She used to live in Georgia with us, and we would always have a good time together. I remember one time I was 6 years old, and she just picked me up from school, and I asked her if I could drive the car. So I sat in her lap, and I was steering, and I couldn't quite get the hang of it. So when I was turning into my house, I almost like hit the mailbox, and Tamika had to fix it real quick before we crashed and caused any damage. But I would say I had a lot of memories with Tamika because she was there when my mother was working. She would pick us up from school, pick me and my sister up from school, and we would just always have a good time. So that's something I can remember. Yeah.
My name is Michelle Sims Pride. I come from Canton, Ohio. My father's name is Calvin Jackson Sims. My mother's Early Mae Sims. I descend from Sarah. And the earliest that I can recall, sad to say, are funerals. I remember my father's funeral at the age of 4. I remember my grandmother Sarah at the age, I think, of 7. I remember Uncle James, who attended the funeral, and then I'd never seen him again. So I remember Uncle Lewis and Uncle Joe was the two main male figures in my life that was the Sims family. Was that fine?
Growing up?
As I say, as growing up, I only remember Uncle Joe and Uncle Lewis. Those were the only Sims that were available at the time.
Do you remember anything about your grandmother?
Her funeral only.
Only funeral.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the same with my father. All I remember is his funeral.
Okay. How about cousins?
I have a cousin Terry and Blair. It was the only two that I grew up with.
Okay.
Other than that, I have never known any other family members.
Okay. And how about this reunion?
This reunion, I am glad it happened. I am anxious to get to know everybody a lot more. Needing phone numbers, addresses. This is something that we've always been looking for. Feeling missing. Now we don't feel missed. We feel loved. Okay.
Hello, I am Barbara Ann Jones Harris. I live in Randolph, New Jersey, and I've been there ever since my retirement in 2002. I am the first daughter of the first son in the Jones family. My dad is Ellsworth Brown Jones, and my mama was Ruby Elizabeth Bantam. My sister is Sheila Jones, but she's got a lot of little names in between. New to me, but she claims that's her own. I have 3 children, Albie, Kelly, and Antonio. Two of my sons live in Arizona, and my daughter lives about a mile from where I live. I've had an interesting life, one I would not want to have missed. I was my Nana's first grandchild. I guess my papaps too. And we had a wonderful time in Holliesburg, Pennsylvania. I learned to love the grass, the tree smells, the early morning dew. We had postum on the back porch. Well, that's when we moved up to Uncle Bud's house. And we did many, many things. So I got a real strong understanding of family, of responsibility, of love. And oh yes, we had our ups and downs when Nana had to come to Philadelphia to take care of my sister and I because my mom and dad were divorcing. She brought with her her sense of humor, her discipline, her love. And just a little sidebar, I went to Catholic school, and Nana went and bought me this dress which had back sleeves for a procession, and the nun called me a hussy. I was in 6th grade, and she shouldn't have done that when my Nana was very perfectly capable of explaining who I really was. So anyway, we've gone through life. We've lived on Cape Cod. We've lived in Jersey City. I taught in Newark for 43 years. We have an abundance of family and friends and loved ones. And oh yes, my cousins that I've learned to love, they work me like the old seniors did. But it's okay because guess what? We're survivors. And if you look at us, you will see we still have our grace, we have our Christianity, we have our love of God. We know from whence we come. And so just sharing this with you makes me feel good. Now there's a lot of stuff I could tell you, but no, this is it.
Tell us some more about Nana.
Oh, okay, here's a commercial. So we were in Germantown on the porch, and Nana knew everybody up and down the street. And we had an apple, and Jerry lived next door. So Nana brings the big apple out and she takes a bite. Barbara Ann, do you want a bite? Yes, I take a bite. She passed that apple all around and we all each took a bite. That was how Nana was. Nana was very precise. There were things that she wanted. There were things that she didn't want. Now when I first met Nana, she had a braid that came way down her back, and she was on one of the visits to Holliesburg. She was frying potatoes. It was my first time to taste a potato that wasn't cooked. That was a new experience. But then Pap-Pap had snapping turtles outside, and Nana would try to fry stuff up and fool me, making me think it was chicken because I was peculiar about eating then. But now I have to tell you about that oxtail soup. When Nana came to Philadelphia to take care of us, there was a can of oxtail soup because during those days we came home for lunch. And so I thought that was an ox up there. And I kept an eye on that can because, see, Nana would have probably fixed it and tried to make me think it was just beef. So one day, without any preempt, I looked up there and that soup was gone. Nana had given it to us, but that's how she did. She shared with us things that we were unaccustomed to, but she didn't tell us. Nana was the kind of grandma we all had. I called her Mother Irene first. Then I reduced that to me Irene. And then Aunt Esther's kids came along, and they start calling her Nana. And that's how we finished. We called her Nana. But she was so giving. She taught us scripture. She let us know truth and loyalty and values. She never left us alone. She was our backbone, and she was the backbone of her children too. She always said that she and Pap-Pap were A-type personalities and took it away from their children. They were a little more meek than the grandparents were. Any other question?
Anything about Pap-Pap, because I have no recollection of Pap-Pap. So if you can, dogs, kind of crazy man he was, I understand.
Well, Pap-Pap was an unusual guy. Pap-Pap promised me every summer I went to visit, and he promised me a palomino. And one day he came home early in the day and he said, "Barbie Ann," he said, "I've got your palomino." And so I was so excited, and I ran down the steps, and there was a Dachshund on a string with wheels. And he thought that was just the greatest joke. Another time, Nana sent me to the parade with Pap-Pap. Pap-Pap sets me on the sidelines with all these people I didn't know, but I knew enough to stay there. And then I looked at the parade, and who is marching down the middle of the street with a jug on his shoulders, just carrying on with all the people. But he came back and he got me. Then we went to a cookout. They had corn on the cob, and a lady there ate 23 ears of corn. And guess what had to happen then? They had to call the emergency wagon to come get her because they needed to pump her stomach out because she had just eaten too much corn. Oh, the stories prevail. Pap was freewheeling. He used to sing to her. He called Nana on the phone. Let me call you sweetheart. And it goes on and on. So it was like just a wonderful time for a little kid to grow up in the kind of freedom, because when you have grandparents, they're special to the grandchildren. And my Nana was my Nana, and Pap was my Pap. And of course he was a handsome guy. If you ever see a picture of him, he had a knot under that gray hair, and the gray hair sat up just like it was just beautiful. But I have loving memories of my Nana and Pap, and I probably have more than the other kids because they were a little older, and Pap passed not too long, I think after Rodney and Robbie. Robbie never saw him. So after Rodney, because Rodney's 8 years younger than I am. So I got the best of both worlds.
I'm Albert William Harris III. Barbara Harris is my mother, and here my lovely fiance is going to join me in a minute, Miss Katrina Johnson. I call her Miss Kitty, and she absolutely hates it. But Barbara Harris is my mother. I am the oldest of three. I've got a sister, Kelly, and a younger brother, Antonio. Barbara's father is Grandpop Jones, Elsie baby. And Elsie baby's mother was Nana. The two stories that I remember vividly, when my brother Antonio, Tony we call him, graduated from high school, my mother sent us to Pittsburgh to spend time with my grandfather. And, you know, obviously, you know, with us living in New Jersey, and at the time I was a student at Arizona State, we didn't see Grandpa Jones a lot. So, you know, my mother told him, you know, I drink bourbon, so he had my bottle of Jim Beam ready. But he fixed dinner for us, and we really had a lot of time to talk and reconnect. And I had such a good feeling when we shared with each other, because, you know, obviously, you know, you have those moments where, you know, you get a little teary-eyed and stuff like that. But my grandfather talked about how, you know, we were grown, and he wished that more of us was in him, because, you know, he had his garden, and he liked to hunt, and he liked to fish. And, you know, roughing it to me is like, you know, no cable. So that was one memorable experience, because we ended the night sitting on the porch looking at the bell down at the University of Pittsburgh, drinking Jim Beam, and he had old granddad. And he said to me, he said, "Do you think that you drink bourbon by accident?" And I told him, yes. You know, I was at a party in Arizona, and my buddy's like, "Here, man, taste this." And it was Jim Beam and Coke. He said, "No." He said, my grandfather's, he was my grandfather, Pap, all right, Nana's husband, would take the jug of bourbon over his shoulder. And he's like, you know, so I got it honest. Well, I told Grandpop Jones that I wanted to see Nana, and you know, he said that, you know, it was a tricky drive to Clearfield, and you know, I was kind of adamant that, no, I want to go see her. It's like, tell us the way. So my brother and I got in the car in the morning, and we drove up, and just like Grandpa Jones said, we missed the turn. You know, I slammed on the brakes and did the U-turn to go back. And when we got there, you know, Aunt Esther was waiting for us, and you know, we went upstairs, and I walked into the bedroom, and Nana looked so pretty. She had, you know, she had that long hair. Her hair was braided really nice, you know, and it was like, you know, she knew who I was, and well, me and my brother. And I really got a chance to visit and understand, you know, how we're connected in life. And it was just extremely powerful, because I believe it was like 2 weeks after that Nana passed. So, you know, I was so thankful that I had the opportunity to tell Nana, you know, those times I remember, you know, coming to Clearfield and playing and hanging out by the creek. It was just, it was a joy that I got that opportunity. That's my story, and I'm sticking into it. Where's Katrina?
No, nobody.
Sit there. Sit there. All right, you ready?
We're ready.
Okay. As I was saying, this is my fiance, Miss Katrina Johnson, and we are gonna get married November 2nd, 2018. And so she's going to be part of the this Brown Lyon family reunion.
And Harris too.
Yes. We have so many last names, we're bigger than a family, we're a tribe. So here's to our tribe, where our women are strong, the men are good looking, and our children are above average. All right, we're out.
So, no, Katrina, what do you have to say? Miss Kitty.
She don't like that.
Miss
I told you she don't like that.
Miss Kitty. It's a term of endearment, he says. I am so privileged and thankful to have been a part of this magnificent family gathering, to be introduced to my future husband's family, and I am just elated to be inducted into this fabulous tribe of people.
Hi, I'm Kelly Harris, the daughter of Barbara Harris and Albert William Harris Jr. I have one son, Amir Muhammad, he'll be 28 in a couple weeks. And the most vivid memory that I have growing up is in Clearfield, sitting at the kitchen table. It was like a little...
The breakfast nook.
The breakfast nook. It was a breakfast nook. And peeling potatoes. And always smelling food and putting the beans in the oven. Nana would put the beans in the oven and cook them overnight, and you could just smell them all night long.
Who's Nana?
Nana's my grandmother, who is Irene.
Any memories of your grandfather?
None.
Okay.
None.
All
I
right.
can't remember. I can't remember any of that.
No.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share?
No, it just is a warm, fuzzy feeling when I get around my mom's side of the family, and I believe that's probably where I got my cooking skills from, because I have magic hands and I do cook for a living. Sometimes I do catering. So that's about it.
Where do you live?
I live in Randolph, New Jersey, which is a suburb of Newark, New Jersey.
Close to your mama.
Yeah, close to my mother. No, she's close to me. I moved her from Newark up by me.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything about the reunion?
The reunion, I felt, was personal. Sometimes you hear of reunions and they're at venues and nobody gets to see each other because this activity is taking place, that activity is taking place, and it's more just like at dinner at a place and we're like straight as a board. So this was like down home. down home, and it felt good.
Action.
Hello, family. We are the Crater Lane. Well, she's a Sidbury now, but the Crater Lane
Formerly
sisters.
Crater Lane.
We are Bob and Nancy, Robbie Lane, and Nancy Crater's children. I'm Asia,
and I'm Morgan, and this is my husband, Demetrius Sidbury, who's an honorary Crater Lane, though he doesn't like to admit it.
It's not true.
Oh, from Wilmington, North Carolina.
The rest of us, and now Philadelphia.
Right, which is where we grew up.
And yes, so some of our earliest memories were going to Clearfield, and I just remember we would load up in the van and be probably a 10-hour drive, which I find out now is only like 3 or 4, but whatever. It felt like 10 hours, and we usually would get there so late, and we'd creep in, and Grandma would be there, and lots of hugs, and we included Bobo here because this is, in my opinion, Bobo the 27th. All of Grandma's dogs were Bobo, except for Toby.
Right. Well, she did name this Bobo, who now lives with Aunt Shelley.
Yes, yes.
But yes, Toby, and they were all poodles. All poodles named Bobo. But
typically a white poodle at that.
Yeah, or like tan. But Toby was the outlier. I think he was some kind of mutt, and he was
terrier mix of sorts.
Yeah.
But he was Gruder stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh. You learn something new every video.
Well, Pop-Pop, yes. Evidently, Toby was Pop-Pop's dog, and he was so cute as a puppy. He was like the cutest puppy you've ever seen. But then, you know, Grandma, she kept feeding him, so he became quite a large sausage with these like little skinny legs. And she used to oil him up with skin so soft. So every time you pet him, you get this like grease slick on your hand. But you know, he was very loving. Yeah. So that's why we've got little Bobo the 14th here to represent.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the stories we were going to... So one of my memories of going to Clearfield, like Asia said, we get there very late. And, you know, we grew up in Philadelphia, in the city. And the sky in Clearfield is just incredible. You could see every star. And Dad has this thing where he likes us to remember the moment. So he would, like, we'd get out of the van, and he'd, like, hold us. And we'd be looking up at the sky, looking at the stars. And he's now remember. You remember this moment right here. And so that's always a very special memory for me when I think about Clearfield.
Clearfield was also special because it was typically the only time that we would see our cousins.
All together.
You know, with our mom's side, we fall far younger than any of our first cousins. So
like
we didn't really
have.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't really have that niche of cousins, but with Clearfield, when we would visit everyone, you know, there were people our age, and we were all related, and we would just have such a good time. We were such a gaggle. I remember going down to the creek and under the bridge and throwing
to
rocks.
The fair when you were there in the summertime. It would always be a trip to the Clearfield Fair. So we'd have to coordinate our trips so we'd all be there at the right week. And what is it, August, I think, in the summer? So that was always very exciting. But one of the traumatic Clearfield stories that we will share.
I was not ready, guys.
So
I was not.
Now we're all family here. So Grandma used to wear wigs, which Asia was not aware of
as a small child. That she had a wig on, and there was one
time. You go into her bedroom.
Well, I didn't. I guess I never really put it together, but I remember one time she put a wig on each one of the grands. I think it was only Aunt Connie's 3 girls that were there.
No, you mean Aunt Shelley?
Yes, Aunt Shelley's that were there.
I don't remember. But there's a picture of like
all
is that
of
right?
us
Okay.
And
we each have one of Grandma's wigs, and poor Asia was so disturbed.
I was so terrified. I didn't understand. I just didn't understand that there were wigs, that was a real thing. And I remember going back to our bedroom and saying to Mommy, she took her hair off. And we were all wearing her hair. And I said, yeah, it's okay. I don't get it. Yeah. So that was a scary moment for me. But then getting older, I did remember that.
Yeah.
And I also remember Pop-Pop, who was Grandma's second husband. And he, you know, we Pop-Up was our grandpop, and I just remember the way he used to talk about grandma. Now,
Hester.
Hester, he had a very, very thick accent, and I remember him saying that, hanging out in his red leisure suits with some loafers. Socks pulled up and a pair of loafers. And oh my, that was the look right there. But I remember Grandma always giving us the biggest hugs and being drenched in Chanel number 5.
The whole house was walking.
it was heavy. And then Morgan's best friend lived, she went to Penn State, and so one time we went to visit Desiree, and
during
because
the summer.
we were going there, we were going to see Grandma as well, because it's just, you can't go to Penn State and not stop by. But before we saw Grandma, we went to the pool, and it was the first time that I had discovered suntan oil, and I remember being in the sun and getting so burnt, just so burnt lobster red. And the next day we saw Grandma, and I was so sunburnt, and she gave me a big hug and was rubbing my back and said, "Grandma, please stop, Grandma, please." And she was like, "You're my grandbaby, I can hug you anytime I want." I said, "That's totally true, but I'm so burnt." And she's, "Oh, baby, I'm so sorry." So I definitely remember that.
Yes.
But one of the last memories that we both had the last time that we were here,
we came down to Huntsville to visit Grandma, and it was, I guess, February? Is that when the Oscars are? It was, I think, February. And we flew down, and we get here, and of course the Christmas tree is still up, because Grandma, every time I kind of tried to take it down, she very upset, no, leave it up. So we got the Christmas tree, and we're here, and it was the weekend of the Oscars. And so we were sitting there on the couch right out here, and I think Grandma was in between us and just kind of like holding our hands, and she loves the movie stars, so we were watching all the ladies come in their dresses, and she's just holding us, and who loves you? So it was a really nice weekend to spend with her, and get a chance to do that. And then one of the stories I wanted to tell was the first time that Demetrius met Grandma was for Leslie, my cousin Leslie's wedding in Nashville. And so we flew down, and everybody, the family was staying in, I don't know what it was called, but they had this space that all the family members were staying there together, which was great that we got to spend time outside of the actual wedding festivities. So of course everyone had heard about Demetrius, but not a lot of people had met him yet. So Grandma meets him, and Grandma was a bit of a flirt, as I understand it. And so she looks him up and down, and she approves. And we're like, "Oh, Grandma, how would you like to read?" She's like, "Oh, you wait." So at this point she was in her wheelchair, because she wasn't as mobile, and she's like, "You wait till I get out of my chair," which is very quintessential Grandma. So that's a good memory for me, her first introduction there.
So what do you think about this family, Demetrius?
It's funny. I've never been around a more welcoming group of people, and the couple times that I've met their grandmother, I see where they got it from, or where everyone got it from, and so I appreciated her, even though I didn't really get to know her very long. But I know that a lot of special people are in this family, and they kind of stem from her. So that's kind of how I think about it.
And how about your in-laws?
Couldn't ask for better in-laws. Could not ask for better in-laws.
He likes them more than me.
It's, moved to Philadelphia 7 years ago, and could have not asked for a better situation. I don't really consider you guys my in-laws. You are absolutely my family.
All right. Bobo, do you have anything to say?
representing the Lane Magruder.
Yeah, it's definitely holding down the Magruder side of it.
Yes.
But no, it's I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to do this. It's really nice to meet people that we haven't seen before or met before, and just everybody has been nothing but smiles and open arms and happy to be here. So, food brings everybody together, and luckily, Aunt Connie can throw down with the best.
Yes, she can.
We had some good meals and some good memories. So this will definitely stick out, and I think a lot of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap.
All right.
My name is Antoine Jason Maycock, and this is my family, and I'm thankful to be at the Lyons Brown reunion September the 2nd of 2018, and my wife and sons will introduce themselves.
My name is Tiffany Nicole Singleton Maycock. My mother is Mamie Louise Tarver Singleton, and she married my dad, who is James Samuel Singleton. And these are our sons.
Hi, my name is Jordan Maycock, and I live in Selma, Alabama, and my grandmother, who died, and and our next grandmother who replaced her is now 101.
All right, Tarver.
Hi, my name is Tarver Jason Maycock. My grandmother is my favorite grandmother, and her name is Connie Maycock. And my favorite uncle is Uncle Robbie Lyons. Me too.
Philadelphia.
And he lives in Philadelphia.
What does Uncle Robbie do?
All right, you do it, both of you together.
Knock on the door, beeping, turn the light, and walk in. That's what Uncle Robbie said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and as far as memories, I do remember earliest driving from, say, Pensacola, Florida, when we lived there, to Clearfield, Pennsylvania. And I remember going to Clearfield for maybe a week or two, usually around Fair Week, almost every year. And there, Uncle Robbie and his family would come down, and we'd see Morgan and Asia, and sometimes Brian and Sheila would come visit as well. There were times when Grandma Magruder lived with Pop Magruder in Crofton, Maryland, and we'd go to their townhouse and visit. I do remember going to the fair. We enjoyed that. There was an ice cream store out back behind the house in Clearfield. We'd walk over there. We'd walk to the fair. We'd ride bikes across the bridge in Clearfield and try to ride bikes downtown. I remember visiting Retta and Jenny from church, and there was Mary. She worked at the gas station, and she'd come by and visit. And the earliest pets that I remember Grandmother Magruder having were Rex and wasn't Bobo. There was Rex.
Toby.
Yes, Toby was after Rex, and Buffy is another one I remember. And she also had a white cat. I don't remember the cat's name. The cat was usually hidden. And I also remember watching the movie Hunt for Red October with Pop Magruder. They would sometimes send us videos. I remember they sent us a VHS tape with a compilation of various Disney classics like Pinocchio and Bambi and some Roadrunner episodes. So really enjoyed the love they shared through VHS tapes. And I do remember Grandma let me come stay with her for a while, and for some reason every time my family would come to pick me up, they'd have car trouble. So I ended up staying, instead of 2 weeks, like a month and a half. And during that time, Grandma Magruder made sure that I ate my squash, which I thought was nauseating when I started, but by the end it was good. So what else? I remember just enjoying spending time with family, and I'm thankful that I have a family now and can share these good memories with them. And did you have any more you want to share?
I remember Grandma Magruder. I helped to take care of her when she lived here, and she was always, funny and making jokes, and I used to always harass her to make her walk some more and exercise, and I would tell her, "No diving, Grandma," and she would just laugh at me and dive on the couch anyway. And so we had a lot of fun times. I would bring the boys over here, and we'd help take care of her while. So I'd have to run, take care of the boys and take care of Grandma all at the same time. So it was fun times.
Remember, you gonna tell them the inside joke about?
No.
Oh, okay.
boys, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Yes.
What?
Knock on the door, beep in, turn the lights, and walk in.
All right. So, who do you love?
Nana! Nana!
All right. Nana will like that. All right.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.
Thanks.
All right. Well, my name is Adam Maycock, and this is my wife, Kaja, and my oldest daughter, Adeline, my middle child, Layla, and the baby is Kylie. Adeline Kennedy, Layla Giselle, and Kylie Isabella. And we're the Maycock family. I am the middle child of Connie and Antoine Maycock, who is the daughter of Esther Magruder.
Esther Lane.
Esther Lane. That's true. Yeah. And then Esther is the daughter of Irene Jones. So that's as far as I know, as relates to the lineage. But we live in Chicago, Illinois. We are transplants from Orlando, Florida. After myself living in Orlando for 15 years, where my wife and I met when she was in college, and I was working in a business internship in Florida for Adventist Health System as part of a hospital administration internship. And so we had a wonderful story of love and relationship where we were friends for a number of years and then married in 2010, November of 2010. So a couple childhood memories of my grandmother, Esther Lane, in Clearfield. I would say that one of the fondest memories probably is playing down at the creek, as they call it, and with my brother and the neighbor kids, being able to go down and play in the water and take inner tubes down when the water was a little higher, and then also playing in the attic in the house, finding all kinds of treasures that we thought were treasures in the attic, and all the chores of cleaning out the basements and the cellar is a better term for it. Those are a lot of great memories, and eating dinner and breakfast around the breakfast nook table, where you had to crawl in and climb in and get in how you fit in, and once you're in, it's hard to get out. But really a lot of great memories there. I would also say that it's good memories of, wow, okay, let's sit down. A lot of good memories with family visiting. We would often find trips with my mom's sister, Shelley, and then her brothers. The brothers would come up in various trips and bringing their families when possible, and being able to just hang out. And even this weekend, seeing the pictures and reminiscing on those times together with family, just really makes your heart warm to see those times that were spent together. So, Kaja, why don't you share your story on how we met? That'll be good. I've talked a lot, so it may be a good idea to just share how you met and where you're from and your story.
Sure. So we do have a little bit of difference on how we met, a different story. And I met him, I was doing nursing school back in Florida Hospital in 2002 or 1, I forget it. I met him at a restaurant called Samba Room, and I was not really interested in him because I was dating someone else. But we were friends for a good number of years, like you said, and he's always been such a great person. And it was until he took me to the gala, and there was Michael Bublé was singing, and got dressed up and everything, and he treated me like I was the only one in the room. It was like a light switch where when I knew that it was him. And so we hadn't even started dating. So shortly after that we dated for about 2 years, and then we got married. So it was good. His little version is a little different, but it's okay, you know. He remembers me a little bit sooner than I remember him. So obviously made a great impression on him. He's married to me now.
And where are you from, Kaja, and your family?
Yeah, so I was born in São Paulo, Brazil. And I left there when I was 7 years old. And left there when I was 7, so I've been living here ever since. I do speak Portuguese. I try to speak Portuguese to the girls as much as possible. We are planning on doing Brazil trips every summer for the girls, so they could really be exposed to that culture and really be ingrained in the language and everything. So, anyways, that's our story.
We're losing our kids.
We lost one.
You see one right there still with you.
Yeah, one's still with us.
Yes.
So, I think I would say, just maybe in closing, I can't think of too much more, is we're just thankful for opportunities like this to have family reunions where we've met, particularly side of the family that we hadn't met before, and to recognize that we've got family in a lot of different cities, and that you just never would have known until you had something like this. So we're thankful for the organizers and for our kids getting into stuff as we're hearing in the background, but we're thankful for the opportunity to be here together in 2018 and to see the same pictures that we saw 20, 30 years ago, to be able to create those same memories where our kids will be able to think back on those times where they hung out with their little cousins, you know, as the years progress and more reunions come around. So that's our story, and we're sticking with it.
And that's a wrap. Bye.
Hi, my name is Shelley Lane Pelote, and I am married to Edward William Pelote, and we have 4 children: Leslie, Erica, Michelle, and Edward the second, or Buddy Boy. And we live in Nashville, Tennessee. I am the daughter of Esther Jones Lane, and Walter Lane. And we lived in Clearfield, grew up in Clearfield. I am the baby sibling to Rodney, Robbie, and Connie. And growing up in Clearfield was fun. It was in the country. We had a great deal of time. And what I remember most, Nana was my grandmother, Irene Jones, and she lived with us. So she was like a mother to me. She was everything to me. And one of the things about Nana that I remember the most was she was so prim and proper. She was not going to tell a tale. She wasn't going to tell a lie ever. And I had some friends that came by to see me, but I didn't want them to know that we were there. I didn't want them to know that my friend and I were in the house. So I ran upstairs, and they came and knocked on the door, and Nana answered the door. And they said, "Well, is Shelley here?" And she says, "Well, they're not in this room." And that was just so hilarious to me. And it was so much Nana, because she was not going to tell a tale. She was so proper, and she would get giddy sometimes, and she would walk around the house, and she'd dance and just do her little jigs. And she was such a special person to me, and I just have great memories of her. And I was blessed that I grew up and she was right there in the house with me. My brothers and sisters, while being the baby, they teased me, and they did whatever they did to little ones. But one of the things that I remember that with Robbie and Robbie, there was a mom
brother in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, mom had a little statue, and it was a little man that had fish in a little basket. And I came home from school one day, and I was sitting in a chair, and I knew I had to change my clothes. So I went upstairs to change my clothes, and I came back down, and Robbie was in my chair. And I said, Robbie, get out of my chair. And he wouldn't get out of my chair. So I took my shirt that I had not put on yet, and I went like this, and the sleeve of the chair, of the sleeve of my shirt wrapped around this little statue. And I went to hit him, and the statue fell on the floor, and it broke completely in half. Just at that moment, Mom pulls in the driveway, and I'm screaming, crying. I said, Mommy's going to get me. And Robbie's scared, so we glued it, and it was perfect. She never knew. But for almost a year, my brother threatened me that he was going to tell on me if I didn't do anything he said. If it was wash the dishes, no matter what it was, he always said, I'm going to tell Mom about the little statue, and I would end up doing it. Well, one day I said, I'm tired of this. I'm done. So I went up and told Mom about this statue after a year later, and, you know, she laughed about it, and it was great. So that's how he treated me. But I must say, all of my siblings they treated me great, because maybe because I was the baby, or maybe because it was just me. But I love them all, and we've had great times in Clearfield, and I am so glad that we've all gotten together to learn more and meet more and more of our relatives, and there's more out there. So I'm hoping that we keep this thing going, and I meet more of you that are out there.
Are we ready, James? Action.
Hi, my name is Erica Pelote. I am the daughter of Edward and Shelley Pelote. Shelley is the daughter of Esther and Walt, and who is the daughter of Irene. I currently live in Nashville. I am going to school at Meharry Medical College. I am in my 4th year, praise the Lord. I will be graduating May 2019. And I will be going into emergency medicine and currently looking at different residency programs.
And what memories do you have of Grandma Magruder?
So, Grandma, I luckily had the pleasure of being with Grandma. When she lived down here between Aunt Connie's house and Mommy's house, I was definitely around a lot of the time. I got to stay with her, and I think the thing I remember the most during that time period was just how much she laughed and how much she loved to laugh. I also remember my cooking skills weren't as good as I would like them to be, and Grandma was the best cook. And so I remember often going to her, asking her to taste my food. And one thing about Grandma, she was definitely very honest. Very honest. So she would definitely tell me if I needed more seasoning, and she would kind of guide me along. I also remember as a child going up to the house in Clearfield. Definitely summers going up there with cousins, Adam and Jason and Ashley, as well as my siblings, who unfortunately were not able to be here. But my siblings are Leslie, Michelle, and Edward. All of us would go up there.
AKA Buddy Boy.
Buddy Boy, definitely. And also Morgan and Asia, who are Uncle Robbie's children and Aunt Nancy. They would be there sometimes as well. And I definitely remember just having so much fun in Grandma's house. She would have this big house, and it would have so many places to hide and so many different things that weren't in my house. So I was just in awe being able to be at her house, and she had the creek not too far down the road that we could play in. And I remember the town being so small and so safe that we were able to walk to the grocery store. You wouldn't think that children would be excited to go to the grocery store, but we definitely were, because we could walk there, have our own mini adventure, and then walk back. So those are some memories that I have growing up.
And what was your influence to go into medicine?
That's a good question. I think my father definitely played a role. My father, Edward Pelote, he is an internist He's not practicing currently, but he would, sometimes he worked in the emergency room, other times he worked as a hospitalist, and that definitely played a part in my choice to go into medicine. But he never tried to force me into medicine. Definitely, I'm sorry. He definitely tried to let me do my own path, kind of step back and let me decide on my own. I do remember when Grandma was living down here, when she was at my mom's house, she did have a minor heart attack, and I was actually with her when it happened. And at the time, looking back on it, it was one of the scariest times of my life, not knowing exactly what to do and how I could help her. But in the moment, I remember others telling me that I had the right temperament to be able to get done what needed to be done. I was able to call my father in the moment and ask him, tell him exactly what her symptoms were, and then calmly being able to tell him, and then he was able to tell me, okay, you need to call the ambulance. And I think as a result of that, we were able to get her to the hospital without any major side effects or major complications happening. And ultimately, definitely God led me in that direction. Even in undergrad, I still was not convinced that medicine was for me, but just things kind of fell into place. Everyone kept telling me to try, and so ultimately I tried, and God got me the score that I needed to get me to where I needed to go.
Anything else you'd like to share?
No, just that I have one of the best families. I know I'm a little biased, but my family loves me tremendously, and I love them. My favorite uncle from Philadelphia, he definitely has been so supportive, just seeing how much he supports me in my walk with medicine, and his family and Aunt Connie and their family, and just we're all so close. You know, we may not be able to see each other as much as we want to, but when we do get together, you can tell that the love is real and that it's there. So I am definitely very thankful for that.
My name is Alicia Marie Bell, and these are my 3 kids.
Gloria, Joseph, Stephen.
Lyons is my maiden name, and their daddy is Demetrius Calvin Bell. My parents are Jim Lyons, and Mary Alice Watts is her maiden name, Lyons. And my dad's name is Samuel Eugene White Fox Lyons, and my dad's mom is Fanny Matilda. Is it Fanny Matilda Cherry? It's her maiden name, and she married into the Lyons family. And then on my mom's side, her dad is Booker Telefaro Watts, and her mom was what's grandma? Alma Miller. She married into Watts family. I was trying to remember Alma's middle name, but I couldn't remember it. Anyway.
Where do you live?
So we live in Hazel Green, which is just north of Huntsville. My husband works in Huntsville, Alabama. And my 3 kids were born in 3 different states. Gloria was born in?
I was born in Alabama.
Joseph was born?
Atlanta, Marietta.
Yeah, Georgia. And Stephen was born in? He probably doesn't remember. Maryland. It was a while ago. He was born in Bel Air, Maryland. And that's just our genealogy for in a short thing.
Gloria, what do you like to do?
Well, I like to do different things. It depends. I like to play the violin. Read, anything. It depends. I was born in Alabama, then we moved to Ohio, then we moved to Georgia where he was born, then Maryland where he was born, then we moved back here. what I remember of my family is my Mimi and my Papa. Basically, what I've heard is that my mom's mom. I know some of her sisters because there was Aunt Barbara, there's Aunt Edna, there's Aunt Gail, and then there's Mary Alice. She died when my mom was 9, so I was never able to meet her. But I do know my mom's stepmom. We call her Mimi. And beyond that, and Papa, I don't know.
Very good. How about you, Joseph? What do you remember?
Mimi and Papa. And Mommy and Daddy.
What do you like to do?
Draw and read.
What do you like to read?
You like your snake book, right?
I like my Snakeopedia and like Little House on the Prairie books. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Lauren Goes Wilder. And I like to read other things.
Okay. How about you, Stephen? What do you like to do?
Play on no. I like to play on computer.
Oh, on the computer. Well, I saw you out there. Were you riding that bicycle?
Yeah.
Did you have a good time? Did you crash?
Yes.
What'd you crash into?
A tree.
A tree? Tree jumped out and bit your bike, huh? Did you have some good food to eat?
Yeah.
He was too busy playing to eat.
I ate an egg.
He ate his deviled egg. He likes deviled eggs.
I guess you do. So you like your pop-up?
Yes.
Yeah. That him over there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else anybody else wants to talk about?
No.
Well, I guess I can.
Gloria?
Yeah.
I have cousins. Let's see. My mom's mom. Okay, my mom had 3 sisters and a brother.
Wait.
I mean, no,
total
2
of 8 kids on that side.
No,
my mom was one of 8.
Yeah, but I'm saying my mom.
Yeah.
She had 2 sisters and 1 brother. Yes. She had 2 sisters and 1 brother, and the one of her sisters is a stepsister. The other one is then her brother is half brother, and so the brother doesn't have any children, but my mom's sister, the stepsister, has 3 girls: Brooklyn, Brennan, and Trinity Tribble. Then her other sister has 3 boys: Miles, Ethan, and baby Jason. So I have fun with them. It's fun, and I like family reunions, I guess.
Have a good time at this family reunion?
Yes.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite new cousin?
Yeah. Robbie, Mr. Robbie.
All right.
Cousin Robbie, that's right. All right. And Alicia and Stephen, anything else to say?
I guess.
Well, I know one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Daddy is with his sister, and
in California.
And she's on Lizanda, and she spoiled him out.
Spoiled him rotten in California.
She spoiled rotten?
She spoiled her brother, my husband's rotten.
Ha!
I'd say she spoiled him sweet.
Say that again?
I said I'd say she spoiled him sweet.
Spoiled him sweet. Okay.
So my dad had 2 sisters and 2 adopted brothers, and my dad's older sister, the oldest one, died when she was a baby, so she didn't. Well, the next oldest girl had 3 children, a girl and 2 boys, and her name was Jeannie, and she married Randy Umstead Sr. And they had Vivian, Randy, and Michael. And Vivian and her husband had 2 boys, and their names were, go put that up, Forrest and Malcolm. And then Randy had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, by a lady from the Czech Republic named Blanca. And their children's name was Blanca Jean and Corey. And Blanca Jean had one little girl who was born blind. Papa, do you remember the girl's name? I don't remember her name. And then Michael, I think he only claims Chanel now, has 1 girl.
Yes.
And so that's that side of the family.
Okay, my name is James Eugene Lyons. I was born in Washington, D.C., raised there. And when I was young, my dad took me up to Clearfield and met Connie and her family. And what I remember about Clearfield was that breakfast nook. And I've always looked for a breakfast nook. And I've only known one other place that had one, and that was my brother-in-law up in Indiana, Joe. He had a breakfast nook in his house. And the next time I saw Connie was at Andrews University, and that's when I met Antoine. And I really respected him greatly. And so when I got married, I invited him to be my best man in my wedding. And then when he got married to Connie, I was in his wedding, standing next to Robbie. And my dad's name is Samuel Eugene White Fox Lyons. My mother's name was Fanny Matilda Cherry. My grandfather on my dad's side was
Sam Crane.
David Samuel Isaiah Lyons, and his father was James Levi Lyons, and his father was James H. Lyons, and that's where the families tie together. And so it's been a real pleasure coming up here to this reunion and meeting so many new cousins. And Connie and Robbie and I are third cousins. And Robbie helped me fill in the family tree to bring Connie into it, because I've always known that Connie was my cousin, but I never knew where it tied in. And now I know. And this is my daughter Alicia. I've got 4 children. I have Alicia is my oldest, Gina's my second daughter, James is my son, and my stepdaughter is Nicole Tribble. Her maiden name is Spears. And this is Alicia here.
Yes.
So you want to say something?
I think I said a lot in the previous video, but I'm glad you came down from Kentucky. He came down from Lexington to be with us, and I got to have him with me for a solid week, so we were excited about it. And so it's been a good weekend, it's a good week, and we're thankful for the chance to have the family reunion. And I hear rumors it's supposed to be an annual event, is that right? Or is that pipe dreams?
Time will tell.
Okay.
But this has really, really been a wonderful event. And I'm so glad that Connie and Robbie have put it together. And I've made my little contribution.
Big contribution. I'm going to talk about it in my video.
Okay.
One other thing, Jim, I understand you and Antoine had an adventure one time when you were both at Andrews.
We did.
Tell us about that.
I had an old Mercedes Benz that Mary Alice and I drove down to Washington. Well, the differential went out on it, and I had to leave it there and go back to school. When my dad finished fixing it, I asked Antoine to hitchhike from Andrews University in Berrien Springs, Michigan to D.C., and he hitchhiked with me.
Wow.
And we ended up getting a ride all the way to the house.
Wow. How many different vehicles carried you? Or
It was about 3.
okay.
Hitchhiking along Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Wow. Was that a toll road at the time?
Yes, it still is.
Yeah.
And Jim, when you're not putting together reunion videos, what do you do and what have you done through your career? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an electrical contractor and heating and air conditioning contractor. I worked for the city of Lexington 27 years and retired. I'm on the AV team at church. Sometimes I'm on the camera, sometimes on a video switcher, sometimes editing DVDs, always editing audio sermons, putting all that up online, and monitoring the church website.
And also the radio station, right?
Oh, we started a radio station in Lexington. FCC opened a window for construction permit to build a radio station, and there were only so many spots available, and they had a point system. Well, our church did not have enough points to beat anybody out, so we were left out in the cold. After the window closed, it was discovered there was one more spot, and everybody else had dropped their application, and ours was the only one left, so we got a construction permit. We had a corporation set up before we applied, of which I was vice president, and when we got our permit, I put all the station together, the transmitter and the studio, and the only thing I didn't do is set up the software and put up the antenna and tower. But I put all the other stuff together, and I maintained that.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Constance Marie Lane Maycock, better known as Connie. I am married to this wonderful man. What is your name?
I'm Antoine Maycock, favorite husband of Connie Maycock.
Yes, he is my favorite. Yes. We've been married how long?
45 years.
How many on our anniversary in a few days?
September the 10th, it'll be 46 years we've been married.
That's right.
And we have 3 children together and 7 grandchildren.
Who are our children?
Well, who was in your wedding?
Oh, who was in our wedding? Our wedding was the people running the show here on these videos.
That's right.
Robert was in our wedding, Robbie, and Jim Lyons was in our wedding, and they saw each other and hadn't seen each other since then.
48 years.
48 years, 46 years. Anyways, our children are Antoine Jason Maycock, our oldest, Adam Melanchthon Maycock, our second born, Ashley Esther Maycock Jacobs, our third born, which is our daughter. So it's 2 boys and girl, 7 grandchildren. We have 2 grandsons and 5 granddaughters. And we're not sure if we'll have any more. We'll just wait and see for the next video.
We are both Northerners, and as the lady Ted said to me a few years ago,
she said, "You're one of them damn Yankees, but we ain't gonna hold it against you."
All right.
But I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, the youngest of 6 children, and I met Connie in college days at Andrews in Barron Springs, Michigan, back around 1970, 69 or 70.
69, 70, yeah. Also, can you give a memory of Clearfield? We used to go to Clearfield. That's where our vacations were.
Where's Clearfield?
Clearfield, Pennsylvania, where my mother, Esther Lane Magruder, lived, and where my grandmother, Nana, or Irene Jones, lived. And we would go home there every, I hate to say it, but every year, where most people go different places. We went to Pennsylvania and Michigan, both in-law homes.
Pennsylvania was always a place that I wanted to visit. Didn't have really occasion to go until Connie's father passed, and I went to the funeral. That was the first time I'd ever been in Pennsylvania. I enjoyed the beauty of Pennsylvania, the mountains and the hills and trees and lots of deer and so forth like that. It was a real blessing.
What was your fond memory about 611, which is where Mom lives, 611 West Front Street? The hard work that you did?
Well, I remember that as I took a shower, I was reminded that water's expensive in Clearfield, and if I didn't get out and turn it off, someone would come in and turn it off for me.
Wonder who that was.
So Mom. I took the cue and shortened my shower.
That was funny.
One thing that I especially remember after I left Clearfield that weekend, I was on my way up to Niagara Falls. I'd never been to Niagara Falls. I wanted to go up there. And I remember I had an old Chevrolet, and I tried passing a man, and he wouldn't let me pass. And there was a car coming in the direction, and I knew I had to do something in a hurry. So I pulled over on the far left side and let the car pass me. But I learned that there's some vicious people out there that will wipe you out if you're not careful.
That's right, that's right. But I have a lot of fond memories of the home and my Nana. My Nana taught me a whole lot of things.
Who's your Nana? Who?
My Nana was Irene Bell Brown Jones. And she lived with us. I can't remember her not being with me, you know, living in our home. And she was a nurse for mothers who had babies, and she'd go off in sometimes and be gone a while, but after a while she'd come back. But after she got ill, and she'd had, I think, like about 7 or 8 or 9 heart attacks during her time of living, and but she taught me a whole lot. She taught me a poem that I remember to this day. It said, "Come little leaves," said the wind one day, "come over the meadow with me and play. Put on your dresses of red and gold. Summer's gone and the days grow cold." Those are little things that, sorry, I'm a crier. But those are some of the things that she would teach us. She had a rocker chair that I still have, that she would rock us all in, and she would sing songs to us and talk to us. And she's the reason today that I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. She became one in the 40s, and she used to say to me, "Well, the angels will cry if you don't go to Sabbath school." And I didn't want them to cry, so I go to Sabbath school. My sister's going to kill me. But a few years later, when she came along and she got up a baby, Nana would say, "Shelly, come on, we'll go to Sabbath school. The angels will cry if you don't cry. If you don't go, they'll cry." She said, "Oh, let them cry," and she'd leave out. She's going to kill me for that one. But anyways, but my grandmother was the best. She was the best. She taught me sewing. She taught me cooking. She taught me how to make pie crust. Pie crust is not easy. And she said, "Go by the feel of it." And so there's a lot of fond memories. Mom was right there. Mom was always busy when I was coming along. but she was right there. And of course, Daddy and my siblings. And I think all of us, all four of us, Rodney, Robbie, myself, and Shelley, can say we had good parents. We were really blessed to have them. Any other thing we should share? Anything else you want to share?
I was I was glad because I was generally pretty good with my hands. I was glad that I could help Mom out with her property and roofing her garage and putting up her fence and some things that she wanted to have done. And I enjoyed working, and so whenever I went there, I knew I was going to be busy.
He even beat,
but I counted it a blessing.
Beat Robbie shingling. They shingled together the roof.
I couldn't keep up. I had to stop helping shingle and just carry him up the ladder. Even then I couldn't keep up. Antoine can work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in those good old days, I had the energy and the ability, and I'm glad that now that only memories remain, that they're beautiful.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
To quote a local funeral home.
Oh, please. But it's been good. I'm glad for the reunion, glad for good new family connections and reconnecting and meeting people that we didn't know who they were, didn't know that I had family in Atlanta. And this is just a beautiful thing. We've been really blessed to have a family that loves us. You know, that we're all a family that's interested in sharing and loving one another. So that's important to us. I hate that our daughter Ashley's not here. She and Bron, her husband Bron Jacobs, is an advertisement. He's a pastor in Alexandria, Virginia, at the Community Praise Church. So you always go by there and check it out. He's on YouTube too. So we wish they were here. They're married, and they have two beautiful girls. So hopefully they'll be here on another reunion. And of course our oldest brother Rodney's not here, and we're sorry that he wasn't able to come. He's the eldest of Esther Lane and Walter Lane, the children. He's retired now and lives in West Virginia, and he has two children. He has a son named Brian and a daughter named Sheila. Brian lives in Florida. Sheila lives in South Carolina. She lives in South Carolina. And Sheila has two children, and three. She has two boys and a girl. And Brian has no children at this time. But we're sorry they're not here with us too. We hope maybe at the next reunion they can be together. So we're hoping to do this, maybe not be next year, but at least every 2 years, get together and really start continuing the bonds with each other. So,
I think our children enjoyed going to Clearfield too.
Oh yeah.
To be with their cousins and so forth, and just have a nice relaxed time out in the country, as it were.
Right, because we always lived in the city until now. They love Moose Creek. Our kids trampled through Moose Creek morning and the fair, the county fair. They love going to the fair. Of course, we did too, so it was a good thing. Good thing.
It's right around this time of the year, isn't it?
That's right. It's always the end of August.
That's right.
Always the end of August.
Clearfield County Fair.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So those are all the memories. I could share more, but I'm not going to take up all the time. But I am thankful that Robbie and Jim were able to put the two of them together to put this together. I don't know how many families do anything like this. This is big time. This is not small time stuff. This is very impressive. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother Jim. Yes, and my brother Robert. Thank you. Alrighty. Bye.
Hello everybody. This is my second go round on this. The earlier one was a camera test and sound check. So anyhow, once again, I'm Robert Ellsworth Lane, affectionately known as Robbie to this family, and to my lovely wife Nancy as Robbie, and to my children as Big Man, Daddy-O, and Padre. So, and I am the son of Walter Clarence Lane and Esther Cornelia Jones Lane. I am the second son of Walter and Esther. Walter was born in the house at 611 West Front Street in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, where I was born and raised, not in that house, but in Clearfield, and spent better part of 24 years there, and moving into the 25th year, it was my great pleasure and the most wonderful thing in my life is when I met this person, Nancy Kreider. So why don't you introduce yourself, honey, and say where you're from, and looking into the camera there.
I'm Nancy Kreider, and I am from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I grew up on a dairy farm in southern Lancaster County, about 20 miles south of Lancaster. The farm was first owned by my grandfather, who bought it in 1911 and moved down to the southern end of the county. And after he moved down, a couple of his brothers moved also. The reason they did that is because land in the southern end of the county was less expensive than in the northern part of Lancaster County. And so my father and almost all of his siblings were born in the house. My grandparents already had a couple of children when they moved, and since my father was the youngest son, my grandfather gave the farm to him. He had given farms to his older sons as they came of age and left, and so I grew up in the farmhouse where my father's family lived. Anything more?
Well, that's to add on to that. So Nancy and I met in 1975, and a mutual friend introduced us. Fine gentleman by the name, now deceased, but Dr. Terrell Jones, and he and Nancy were undergraduates together at Lock Haven State College at the time. And several years later, I went to work at Lock Haven, then University, and not long after that, Terrell Jones came to work there as well as an alumnus, alumnus, and we became pretty good friends. And one weekend, an old college friend of his came to visit. Two college friends came to visit, one of whom happened to be Nancy Kreider. And she came up, and Terrell introduced us. And the thing I remember most about that encounter was the way she laughed. I really, I could hear it all the time. And Terrell used to tease her, and she'd just laughed up, and she'd laugh, Terrell. And then, so we started to date a little bit. We had another mutual friend who I ran into. Nancy may not even know this story. Who I ran into a couple weeks later, and a fellow by the name of Gilbert Brown. And I believe he used to call Nancy not Kreider, but Nancy Critter. And he said that he ran into Critter, and that she was quite impressed with Bobby Lane at the time. So I wrote her a letter. I just had the general address, and somehow she managed to get it. Rural delivery, RD something. But anyhow, so she came up, and a weekend and after the weekend, she went home. And as she left, I told my roommate at the time, Billy Wall, Wild Bill, affectionately known as Wild Bill to some of us. I told Billy, I said, I'm going to marry her. He said, what? You proposed? I said, no. She doesn't even know about it. He said, oh, sure, right. Yeah, you're going to marry her. Okay. Well, Nancy told me that she went home that weekend and told your sister.
Mm-hmm.
She told her sister, she said, well, I met the man I'm going to marry. And lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, it's not much of an exaggeration, but slightly, 2 weeks later, I proposed. And 42 years later, we're still together. How about that, darlings? And now I'd like to say just a little bit about my memories of my mom and dad in Clearfield. And as somebody mentioned, it was Connie and Terry who had the idea to have Terry Jordan, granddaughter of Sarah Brown, my grandmother, and sister to my grandmother, Irene Brown Jones. And Connie, she'll tell this story. I don't know if she told Terry, and now I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but she remembers when Terry and Blair and their parents came to Clearfield, and she said the handsomest man she'd ever seen, and she had a big crush on him. And unfortunately, I don't remember that, except for Uncle Blair had blue-gray eyes that were just sparkling, and that's what I remember of Terry and Blair's father. So many years later, in fact, earlier this year, in 2018, Connie reached out trying to reconnect with Blair, and unfortunately Blair had passed away. And as I think Terry said in her segment, that she reconnected after a time, and Connie and Terry talked and said, let's have the reunion. So they did. And so Connie said to me, oh, I spoke with Terry. You should call her. And she gave me her number, and I just left it there a little bit, said I just didn't act on it right away. Well, one day I get this phone call, and it was a number that I didn't recognize from Phoenix, Arizona, I think. I said, I don't know anybody in Phoenix, so I didn't answer it, which is normally the case. But this person left a voice message. And so shortly later, I played the voice message, and the message, beautiful voice came on and said, hello, Robbie. This is your cousin, Terry. Your grandmother and my grandmother were sisters. Call me. And so that's what I did. And from there, it's led to this spring, Nancy and I, first time west. We flew out to Las Vegas, saw the national park, Zion National Park, and Bryce Canyon, and the Grand Canyon. And then we started to visit our other cousin, Sheila Glover, Barbara's sister, who lives in southern Arizona. In fact, I might as well say she lives in Mexico. She's only 8 miles from the Mexican border. And so we started to drive down, and we got halfway there. We got to Sedona, and we were looking at probably 8 more hours drive, and it was already 4 in the afternoon. And so I called Terry, who said early on to come visit. And I called Terry and I said, Terry, do you think we could come tonight? And she said, you better come tonight. And so we did, met Terry, or reconnected with Terry after well over 50 years. Had a wonderful time. She and John were so gracious, so made us feel right at home, made us feel right like family. Spent the night with them, then drove farther south to Rio Rico in, like I said, very southern Arizona. Met our other cousin, Sheila Barbara's sister Sheila and her wonderful husband Ed Glover had a wonderful visit with them, and then Terry and John drove down one day, spent the day with us, and we had a wonderful time. And then 2 days later, we drove back to Phoenix and spent the night with them and flew home to Philadelphia after that. So it was so wonderful to reconnect with a family that literally I really didn't know I had. I'd forgotten all about them, but Terry and John are just the most wonderful folks, and we had such a wonderful time together. And there was something else I wanted to mention about and so organizing this reunion, I have to give a shout out to my sister Connie, in whose house and property we're holding this reunion. Here in Harvest, Alabama, a suburb of Huntsville, Alabama. And Connie has worked tirelessly to prepare and cook the most delicious food, and everybody else has helped cook, including my wife Nancy, my daughters, Barbara. Everybody here has chipped in, and it's been a labor of love with the family. And I came down a week early because Connie and Antoine needed a little bit of help doing some things around the house, and one of which was a crack in the ceiling and some electrical work. Well, I came down here, I'm thinking, well, I know my stuff, and I brought my my tools and everything. I drove down and I said, oh, piece of cake, we'll put the lights in the ceiling, no problem. Well, I drilled the holes all right, that was no problem. Then it came to running the line, the electrical cord, and I was stuck. I was really stuck. But fortunately, my cousin, James Eugene Lyons, was Johnny on the spot. And as Jim said in his video, he is a master licensed electrician. And I'm telling you, this man knows his stuff. And it has been my great, great pleasure to make the acquaintance of this man right here. And without his help, there would still be holes in the wall and the ceiling fan not up and not running. But together, he helped me, taught me something, and I told him if I stuck with him every day, I'd learn something new every day. Well, on the first day, I learned 5 things. And so I owe him at least a week's worth of work to catch up for what all he's taught me. And Jim, thank you very much. Oh, and the other story I wanted to tell about how we connected. So we're both amateur genealogists. Jim has done a lot more work than I am. And so when we first connected, first by email and then with some phone conversations, and in one conversation Jim said that his father was Eugene Lyons. I may not get the first name correctly, but it's definitely Samuel Eugene Lyons.
And he went by Gene.
He went by Gene. And when he told me that, he said, Gene. And I was thinking, I had an Uncle Gene. And the thing I remembered most about him was he had this very cool mustache and goatee. But the coolest thing about him was he had a buckskin jacket, you know, the old kind of Davy Crockett kind with the fringe hanging on the sleeves and on the shoulders and the back and everything. So I said to Jim, Eugene Lyons, I said, did your father wear a buckskin jacket? And he said he sure did. And then, wouldn't you know it, I went on Ancestry.com and looked at the photograph that Jim put in his family tree of his father, and lo and behold, there he was, Uncle Gene, wearing his buckskin jacket. And it was just terrific. It was just wonderful. And then, so all of a sudden, I knew the connection, because Uncle Gene used to come to Clearfield and go hunting with my Uncle Ellsworth from Pittsburgh. And Uncle Ellsworth was Irene Jones's firstborn and Barbara's father. And so they used to connect through that and going hunting near our home in Clearfield. And so all this, when I was little, I wasn't that interested in making family connections. But now, as I'm older, I see how important they are, and I only wish I had gained this appreciation and this interest when the people who had more information to share were alive and could have filled in the gaps. But now, because of the work of Connie, Terry, and Jim, we have a wonderful family connection, and this reunion has been just the best fun. And we've met second and third cousins, once and twice removed, and the other thing, in addition to being a master electrician, skilled craftsman, an all-around good guy, Jim is also a video expert, and it's his idea and his equipment and his ability that has made all of this possible. And Jim, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing everything and making this such a memorable occasion that we can now share with all those family members who weren't able to make it. And I want to give a shout out to my cousin Sheila, Barbara's sister. Sheila and her husband Ed Glover in Rio Rico, California. I wish you were here, and sorry you couldn't make it, and maybe we'll see you on the next time. And I also want to give a shout out to Ellsworth Jones, the youngest of the Jones boys. He was the son and last remaining son of Irene Jones' third son, William Philip Jones. They lived in Chicago and had 4 sons. William Jones Jr., I think, or something like that. He was affectionately known as Corky. Second son was Bruce. Third son was Skipper. And the fourth son was Ellsworth. And what's interesting about Ellsworth is that, also known as Elsie, unfortunately, both Corky, Bruce, and Skipper are no longer with us. So the last of the Jones boys from Chicago is Ellsworth Jones, Elsie. And when I talked to him the last time at Skipper's funeral, he didn't know that Ellsworth, he thought he was named for his uncle. And to a certain extent, he was, our Uncle Ellsworth, Barbara's husband. But my name is also Ellsworth. And I think there's another one. But we were all named for the original Ellsworth Jones was Irene Jones's husband. Now I'm drawing a blank on Papap's name. I just said it. His name was Ellsworth Hooper Jones. And I think I've said just about and the final shout out is to my cousin, my first cousin, and the son of Irene's second son, Irvin, also affectionately known as Buddy. And his son, Kermit, is my good buddy and our wonderful cousin, and unfortunately had to work and couldn't be here. So shout out to Kermit and his daughter, Angelique, affectionately known as Angel. So I think I've covered it all. And hello there, big brother. I'm sorry you weren't here. I want you to know that I love you. And as we've said on all these others, that's a wrap.
Yes, we're on. Hi, everybody. This is my favorite first and only cousin. Not only, but first. She's the first cousin. She's the firstborn. She's just it. She's it. She's Nana's grandbaby, her son, Ellsworth, had her. And Sheila. Sheila's not here. We miss you, Sheila. We miss you, baby girl. Anyways, what do you remember about Nana?
Oh, Nana was just wonderful. And did you ask me this question yesterday?
No, I did not.
Oh,
Yeah,
see.
Just to say, this has already been covered big time by.
Oh,
Barbara.
Nana.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, well, we love Nana. Okay, we already covered Nana. But I just had to record with my cousin.
Yes.
She's my cousin that called.
Yes.
Yes, she's my cousin.
Yes.
She's my best
I'm her cousin.
Yes, I'm her
Yes.
cousin. Isn't that
She's my
something?
favorite cousin.
She's my favorite
Yes.
cousin.
Except for Robbie.
Except for Robbie. He's my extra favorite cousin. Oh, but Rod, I love you too.
Kelly. And we got another cousin. Kelly. And the cousin's slow to coming.
I don't hear her.
Yeah, she may be in the bathroom.
Oh.
You can edit
You can
these.
edit this, okay?
You right,
So we used to play the piano only because we had to take lessons. I went to St. Madeleine Sophie, and the nuns would smack my fingers because I couldn't play Alice Blue Gown without making an error. But save the day, we moved to Pittsburgh, and Connie got the piano.
It was delivered at our house in Clearfield, Pennsylvania. And boy, the stories that piano could tell. We have one story of the last two keys wouldn't play. For the longest time, just wouldn't play. So Mommy decides to have the piano tuned after we were all grown. She has it tuned, and the piano tuner said, those last two keys opened up, and guess what was in there?
You'll never guess.
Never. In
We
this
have
world.
to
Rodney,
almost tell you.
You know what was in there.
Oh,
don't
yes,
you, Rodney?
Rodney.
You know exactly what was in there. What did Mommy use on us to help us learn to grow up quickly?
Yes, to discipline us.
Something that was in our grandfather's shop.
Yes, that you would use a straight razor to sharpen.
The razor strap.
Rod?
Oh, my.
Oh.
Rodney, remember, he stuck it down in there because he got so many lickings. And they didn't find it for years later. No, it's funny.
So
it's
we
funny.
had a big laugh about that. Come on, guys, just give it a big howl.
So that was a funny story. We just want to record some of these funny things. And
Yes.
that was just one of those funny stories.
Yes.
On the razor strap. There's a lot
Yes.
of funny stories.
Oh, there are a
we
lot
could
of
tell.
stories.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, indeed. But we loved our family.
Yes,
we loved
we
all of
and
our
we
family.
do love our family.
Yes. And we miss her. We miss Rodney wasn't there.
Sheila wasn't there.
Ashley.
Ashley.
Anybody else? And Kermit. Kermit, where are you, son?
He had to work.
Oh, you
Oh,
had
yes.
to work. Kermit had to work.
And one of our cousins,
we can tell some stories about you eating dirt in the backyard. Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell that. He took teaspoons and he dirt. Nana would tell, quit eating that dirt. Some kids like the taste of dirt. It's like starch.
Okay.
You know, some people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you stopped eating dirt by now.
Oh.
You know, that was when you were a little boy.
Yes.
Don't you tell anybody I told that.
Kermit, that's for Angel. She'll love hearing that
Oh,
about
yes,
her dad.
hi, Angel. Hi, baby girl. Oh, she should have been here. There's so many people we missed, but 2 years. 2 years. It will either be in Alabama, but hopefully Tennessee. Tennessee in 2 years. That's what we voted.
That's what we
Tennessee.
voted on, yes.
And one last cousin who has a
Been
very
lost.
important name.
Oh.
Very important name. Still with us. Not here today.
Still with us. It's a cousin.
Anna, Irene.
That would be one, but I was thinking somebody else with one full name.
Okay.
Give us a hint.
Yeah, help us
Gives
out.
us a hint. Well, it would be Charles Jones' son's first name.
Charles.
Moses. No.
And that son's middle name was Hooper.
Ellsworth. Ellsworth, you are somewhere
Yes,
and we
where
are
are you?
looking for
Kelly?
you. We need you to fill our blank there so you can let us know about our Chicago cousins.
And Ellsworth is a good name. It wasn't. You weren't named for your uncle, although that may have had something to do with it.
No.
You were really known for
Your grandpa.
grandfather, Ellsworth
Hooper Jones.
All right, we
Yes.
miss you, Elsie.
Yeah.
Get yourself here. This is the other cousin. This one, we're cousins. She's my cousin. I'm her cousin. I'm her cousin.
First cousin.
First cousin. First cousin.
Once removed.
Oh, that's right. You're removed, baby, but I got you. Got you, baby. This is her daughter. This is Kelly, which we already know because if you've seen the other videos prior to. We just like this camera.
Right.
We just
you
think it's
can
wonderful.
see that we have sportsmanship, showmanship, musical abilities, and we are ready to share.
We are family. I don't know anymore.
We are family. Adios, amigos.
Adios.
Hello, folks. Earlier, you may have seen the prelude or the prologue to the family reunion, to the Brown Lyons family reunion. Well, this is the epilogue. Just about everybody has gone home now, except for the master technician and producer and director, Mr. James E. Lyons, our wonderful cousin, making all of this possible, and our favorite first cousin.
That's right.
Barbara Ann.
And her daughter.
And her daughter Kelly, who I think maybe you've just seen, or depending on how this is put together, you may see that later from this. But anyhow, or before. So yesterday I talked about the reunion and getting it organized and how Connie reaching out to Blair Sims.
Well, let me add a portion to that. That's how this reunion came together. But the reunion period came together from, well, Barbie Ann lived in New Jersey. And my sister and I and my husband decided that we would go visit Barbie Ann without her knowing it. So it was a Sunday morning. We got up and we drove to...
From where?
From Philadelphia. We were visiting...
Why were you there in Philadelphia?
Visiting Robbie.
Just visiting?
No, we were there for the wedding. Of
Whose
Morgan
wedding?
And Demetrius' wedding. And so they had their beautiful wedding, and then the next morning we woke up early, and Shelley and I drove to New Jersey, unbeknownst to Barbie Ann. And when we got there, she was in Sunday school class teaching. And they said, we asked, where was she? Oh, she's downstairs teaching in her class. So we politely went down, and the big table where everybody was sitting around like in a square, and Barbie's back was to us. So we started tiptoeing in, cameras going, just tipping, the people kind of looking at us, and she's there, and it says, and she was talking, and we're going around, and she said, and she saw Shelley. she couldn't believe her eyes. Then she saw me. She couldn't believe her eyes. And then my husband, Antoine, put his arm around her, and she looked at him, she said, ah! That was all she wrote. So right there, we went to a restaurant, and we sat down and we talked. We said, we need to have a family reunion because it was back in 80, 20 years ago. It's been, no, 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
30 years ago when we had the family reunion with the Jones and Lanes. So that's where we were talking. So we tried to get it off the ground, but didn't quite work. And then tried again, didn't quite work. So this was the year. So it's all come together. All of us want to do reunions. So we're all gung-ho for it. So we hope in 2 years, all of you all will be able to come together with us. And in 2 years, have another family reunion. We had so much fun. And I think what made this reunion good was there was nothing really hardcore planned. It was like, you know, let's meet together, let's talk. So much to catch up with. So much to share stories. To see how we're so much alike, but yet different. We had more vegetarians than I ever would have thought, which was interesting and fun. And we had,
there were some meat eaters here too.
Oh yeah, and we had plenty of food. We do cook, the whole family, all of us, we're cookers, so that's a good thing. So we just had a tremendous time, and I'm just really thankful. I'm thankful that they were able to come here to Huntsville, where my hubby and I live here in Huntsville. We actually live in Harvest, Alabama, outside of Huntsville, and my husband's now retired minister, Seventh-day Adventist pastor for 40 years, and now is retired, and we're living here. Come see us.
All right. Yes, ma'am. So this is part 2. One of the things that I've been advised of that I didn't say a whole bunch about my growing up in Clearfield. And I just want to say a little bit about this. Connie and I were blessed with wonderful parents, and our father, who's not on this side of the family, but he died in an accident when I was in college and before Connie was married. And he was Walter Clarence Lane, which we've studied and learned some about in doing the genealogy research, which I won't go into now, but we'll have to do one of these for the Lane side of the family. But I want to talk about my Nana as well. And my Nana was, as Barbara said, just wonderful, prim and proper, and taught us right from wrong.
Taught us well.
And taught us well. But the truth of the matter is, Barbara may have been the first grandchild, and I'm sure Nana loved her.
May have been, she was.
But I'm telling you, my Nana loved me best. And do you know how I know that? Because Nana had many wonderful foods that she made. But her specialty, in my mind, my favorite thing, the food I associate my Nana with more than anything else, was lemon pie, sponge lemon pie. And when Nana would make sponge lemon pie, and the recipe that we exist today, it's in her handwriting.
That's right.
It's for a double batch.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is, my Nana made 3 pies, 3 sponge lemon pies at the same time. Yeah. 2 for the family and 1 for her favorite grandson, Robbie. And I'm telling you, to this day, and I would eat 1/4 of a pie at a slice at a time, and then I'd eat some of the family pie as well. And I'm telling you, it's real good. And you know what? My brother Rodney,
yes,
has that recipe, and he knows how to make it.
Right down.
He can't do the crust very well, but he does a pretty mean filling.
He sure does.
And
I've had it.
I love you a lot, and I wish you were here.
Yes. Yes.
And
anyways, it's good. It's good. We miss you, Rod.
And that's a wrap.
We love you, Rod.
My dad is
Oh, he went to the end of the... okay.